Hi. So what I would like to do for the next few minutes is give you a bit of a run through of how I approached the introduction lab activity, the Android Guy 1.0. So what we were trying to achieve with this was that I want you to start using the 2D shapes, rectangles, ellipses, lines, whatever they are, to build this little robot Android Guy. So this is about figuring out what different shapes you can use, figuring out some additional information about the shapes. How do you turn the corners, for example? And how do you draw an arc? And just kind of a general description of, or a general experience of just troubleshooting and figuring out when things go wrong. So once you've drawn the Android guy, you can have a go at doing some text. And this was my solution. So we have this Android guy here, and I've just got some text that says Rachel's Android guy. So I'll talk you through kind of each part that I've got. So the antenna are lines, just with the stroke weight made a little bit thicker. The eyes are ellipses. Everything else is rectangles, but with an additional parameter or 4 parameters to change the curve on the corners. This is a rectangle with a white fill and a black stroke and some text inside it. So the first thing to show you is that everything is inside the setup, because all I'm doing is drawing the guy. I don't want to keep drawing him over and over and over again. That's just a waste of my computer resources. So the first thing is that I have set the fill to green. Now, how do I know that this actually makes green? So the cheat for this is if you go to Tools and then Color Selector, I'll pull that over. You can basically find any colour of green you want and then just copy the RGB values across into that function. So that's all I did to get that green colour. The next thing is that I've set my rect mode to be center. And the reason I've done this is to make my life a little easier. So normally if this is my rectangle, this is position 0, 0, yeah? And then I have a width and I have a height. So what I've done instead is by setting rect mode to be center, that right in the middle there is my XY position. So what that means is it's easier to deal with symmetrical shapes. So if this is my body, I know that if I take a number away from the X value to get to the position of the arm, I know that I just have to add that same value to the other side as a positive number to get the other arm. So by changing rect mode to be center, you're just saving yourself like a whole bunch of effort. Okay, the next thing is that my stroke weight is set to be 10. And I'm just going to reposition this so that we can kind of see my Android guy at the same time, just to make life a little easier. Okay, I'll shove him there. Right, so stroke. First thing I've done is I've drawn the antenna. The reason I've drawn the antenna is that I want to make sure that the two lines go underneath and join, and then I draw my arc on top, basically. And I'm using the same stroke colour here as I did for the fill. Once I've drawn the lines, I use this command no stroke. So what no stroke does is it removes all of the outlines. So normally the default is a black outline. That just means I don't need to bother about setting that outline value. I don't need an outline, so just get rid of it. I've then drawn legs. So the legs and the arms have curves on the corners. So all of the corners are actually curved. The legs, you can't see the top because the body is on top of them. But we have this radius of 30. That radius just makes a curve on each of the corners. The bigger the number, the more pronounced the curve. And the same for the arms. The head, the arc, so there is a link there to the processing reference. This is the kind of test for this to see if you can go and use the reference and figure it out. You will also find information on the arc as a YouTube video linked within processing, and I'll try and put a little card just on this video that you can go through and have an explanation as to how that actually works. I then draw the eyes, and then I'm on to the text. For the text, I have just set my fill. I've had to set the stroke again to draw the outline, and in order to recreate the stroke, I just have to set the stroke colour and the stroke weight, and it will come back, and that cancels out my no stroke command from earlier. I've got fill, which is white, and then I draw the rectangle, and that rectangle is then what the text is going to be inside. Once the text is inside, again, I've used center as the alignment, and the reason for that is it allows me to use the same XY position for the text as I did for the rectangle. So again, I'm just making my life that little bit easier. So that is my Android guy, Rachel's Android guy, and that's my tactic in terms of the order that I did things and moved them around. There is the example on my Dundee, so you can download this exact file and have a play with it. If you're not sure what a number does, change the number, see what happens. If you're not sure what a function is, get on processing.org/reference, find out what the function is, see if you can make sense of it, see if you can replicate it somewhere else in the program. How do you change the colour? How do you move the arm to the right? Can you change the arm so that it comes up, so that it's waving, for example? Play around, but feel free to use this as your base point.